Hi, and welcome to Truth, Health, and Wellness with Matt and Deborah St. John. We are here live tonight, so if you've got any questions, get them ready. We'll have a phone number on your screen shortly for you to call in live, or on our Facebook page, you can message in live with any questions you have, and we're going to try to get them answered. So, Matt and Deborah, tell me how this week's been for you and what you've kind of seen going on.
It's been busy. What have we seen mostly? Respiratory?
Mostly respiratory, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sinus problems, a lot of upper respiratory, a lot of course, upper respiratory tends to become bronchial if in due time. So a lot of this up here, a little bit more than some of the other stuff, a little bit more than the flu. We're having more respiratory and sinus and upper respiratory, and that's of course when the neti pots and the ear candles and the various things that we do for sinus problems kick in, and we recommend those a lot.
And what do people have to catch it pretty much right off, or if they're already in the middle of it, what's that going to look like for you?
Well, if you don't address the sinus problems, if you don't address the drainage, and of course a lot of that's because people are turning on their heat. They have their heat really high. Of course, in Alabama your heat's high, but then about midday you need your air conditioner on. So that's different elements and different things are heating up, and there's a lot of dust and there's just a lot going on. And so as you have this drainage and you have this mucus build up and you have infections start to build up, then that'll eventually go down into bronchitis and bronchial issues, and could end up being pneumonia. I mean, it could be a number of things. So it's important for people to address the problems. Plus, just who wants to be miserable? Who wants to be walking around with your head fogged up and being completely out of it and not being able to have your equilibrium because you have all this upper respiratory crud going. So that's when doing the nasal rinse with the P7, a little bit of P77, the saline nasal rinse. Also, you can do the
so
ear
dropping
candles.
the P77 in, a couple drops in it?
Just one, maybe two, if you're brave, drops of P77 in the neti pot or in the nasal wash, and you stir it up because it is an oil. Obviously, it's not going to mix well with the water. It just sits on top. And
distilled water.
Oh, very important that you use distilled water. It's just a brain-eating amoeba that can be found in some water supplies that
Yeah, that would not be good.
Yeah, no brain-eating amoebas. So, but the distilled water you use along with some saline, which is just salt, and then you heat that up, warm it up to a comfortable level where you'd run it through your sinuses, and then you obviously you have a neti pot, or they call it a neti pot or a nasal wash, and then you just take 1 or 2 drops of the P77, stir it up, and then run it through each nostril, which is kind of funny. You do that, it's a little weird.
Watch a YouTube video or something.
Yeah, watch a couple of
beforehand,
YouTube videos beforehand, and then sorry in advance for that, but watching other people's nasal rinsing. But it does help to have a template for that. And then the other things are the ear candles, which is you have to be once again careful with ear candles. We're basically talking about what every ENT therapist is strictly against, but a lot of people use they call it ear candles or Indian cones, and those are really good at drawing the wax or the moisture and even the infection out of the ears. And then a lot of times after that, we'll use a little bit of garlic and mullein ear oil. We actually just finished up a new tincture.
Mm-hmm.
What
just available this week. It's garlic and mullein in a hemp base. I've brewed it for 6 weeks and it's ready now, so come and get some from St. John's.
And you put it in your ear? Or?
Yeah, you drop it in your ear,
Okay.
and it helps with ear infections, ear pain, and it also helps to soften and loosen up, the wax that might be in there so that you can get it out with the candle.
And it's safe for kids, the ear oils and the ear candles as well, if you're careful. Obviously, I don't think a round-bunctious 2-year-old might be the candidate for an ear candle. But you maybe if you can knock them out or something.
Yeah, right. You don't want to run around the house with that either.
No, you must be laying very careful.
There's dangers involved, so you got to watch them.
Anytime you mix ears and fire, that's something to pay attention to.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, again, for everyone out there, we are live. So if you have any questions that you want answered, give us a call. The number's on the screen for you right now, or on Facebook. You can message in on there, and we will see if we can't get you an answer. Let's go ahead and jump into actually, we were kind of briefly talking about this a little bit beforehand. Is it healthy to have caffeine every day?
Okay, so caffeine. Now people think of caffeine, they'll say caffeine instead of coffee, or they'll say caffeine instead of soft drinks. Now what we have to understand, there's caffeine naturally found in a lot of different things. Cola nut used to be the source of caffeine for Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola and those sorts of things. Then also guarana is another herb that has caffeine naturally occurring. Then you have coffee bean extract in coffee, which has caffeine. Now coffee also has a plethora of other constituents that are healthy, that help in some ways. There are also some constituents of coffee that are not good for you. Matter of fact, most coffee that most people buy is pretty much trash. I mean, I hate to say that, but it has mold, it has bacterium, it has pesticides,
Fungus.
it has fungus, and it has herbicides. Okay, so most people are drinking coffee that's toxic. And so then you have companies like, is it Bulletproof? And I'm not advertising for them. They don't even advertise theirs as being organic because they won't lie about some things that other companies will lie about to get that organic certification. But they are pesticide and herbicide free. So coffees come in different quantity or different qualities, and the quality of the coffee is going to be very much a factor in the health of the person who's drinking it. So I'm making this a very long answer, but the main thing with caffeine in general is to know where you're getting your caffeine. If it's an energy drink, a soft drink, a synthetically derived caffeine, which most is now, then stay away from it. It's not healthy, it's not good for you, and caffeine is not something that makes you smarter or makes you learn more. It actually causes stress. So it doesn't give you energy, it gives you stress. Now, caffeine with coffee, or even some of the constituents of black tea, in other words, God's caffeine in the cola nut, the guarana, the coffee, the tea, it has other constituents that help to buffer and to help stabilize the caffeine so it's not so much of an impact in your body, not as much of a stimulant. And so people will drink coffee, and once again, you have 1 cup, it can help your memory. You have 1.5 cups, it'll help your memory. You have 2 cups, and all of a sudden you're forgetting things because you're talking too fast. And if you have 3 cups, well, you're overstimulated. So a lot of people will drink 6 to 12 cups of coffee a day, and it doesn't help that a cup of coffee is 5 ounces. I'm sorry, there are no 5-ounce cups anymore. They're 10-ounce cups and 12-ounce cups. So people have these mugs where they're drinking what really is 3 cups of coffee in 1 cup, and then they're wondering why they're jittery or nervous or whatnot. So the thing with caffeine is like a lot of things. If you're a person who's moderate, who can use things in moderation, who can keep from being addicted easily to things, then coffee and different forms of caffeine, naturally derived caffeine, can be a good thing. However, if you're someone who's easily addicted, someone who more is better and none is enough, then don't drink things that have a lot of caffeine in them. Coffee and caffeine are not a bad thing. Too much of either is a very bad thing.
Okay.
So another thing about coffee is that it leaves a lot of people washed out. It'll leave you where you don't have your magnesium levels, and some of your minerals will be washed out of your body. So you end up like tired and lethargic, and you don't have the energy level. And sometimes people have joint issues and have issues with their muscles and pain in their muscles, and they won't even realize that it's because of a high dose.
Oh, wow.
Too long, too much.
Wow.
Too much coffee. So once again, a little bit's fine. Right now we're drinking the Bulletproof a little bit, and then we found another organic coffee from Charleston, North Carolina, or South Carolina. That's
Someone asked me about Black Rifle.
Okay, Black Rifle is, I was excited about Black Rifle. I went to their testosterone field shop in the Smokies, and man, they were selling shirts with all kind of stuff on it, like, what's the thing? What was the slogan we heard? The silent majority.
Okay.
It's like, the American flag, and it's all like, Second Amendment. And that's all good and fine, but the problem is if your coffee's garbage, then really, they won't tell you where their coffee comes from.
We tried to research it.
We tried to call them and ask their technical departments.
They wouldn't tell us anything.
They will not guarantee that their coffee is free of anything. So basically, I say Black Rifle's no better than Folgers.
Okay.
It might taste a little better, but I would go with Bulletproof coffee or another organic, certified USDA certified organic coffee.
Okay. Yeah. I do have a question still on this, but we have someone live right now. So let's go ahead and let's see if I can get this to work for me here.
You can do it. You were right.
Hey, this is Shasta. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, you are live on the air now with Matt and Deborah. Go for it.
Okay. I just wanted to ask Matt if he had ever heard of something called anhydrosis.
Say that one more time, please.
it's an inability to sweat.
Oh, yeah.
Some people just don't sweat.
That's true, and a lot of that's your moisture level. I don't know if they can they hear this?
Yes,
over there?
you can hear it on the air, and I'm going to
Okay.
leave you live on here while he's talking to you.
A lot of people have overactive sweat glands, and there's an herb called sage that easily can correct that. And it's a really neat thing. I mean, I remember I had a friend who was a drummer who used to wear those armbands. Well, see, we weren't in the 80s. It was the 90s. So the armbands were out. But for him, the sweatbands were mandatory because he sweat so much. And so that was his issue. We put him on sage after I learned about sage. I was like 16 years old. I'm like, hey, sage works. He's like, oh, that's great. So it worked for him. But to stop someone, or to actually help someone who can't perspire well, the main thing is to focus on your kidney function. Your kidneys need to be working optimally, and you need to be working your kidneys, meaning, for example, like a cup of coffee a day, taking some things like dandelion root, like corn silk, what's another good urinary, corn silk, dandelion?
Uva ursi.
Uva ursi would be great. Those types of botanicals will help make your urination a lot more effective, and it'll help you empty better and to get a lot of the toxins out through your kidneys that you would a lot of times get out in your skin. We talked on a few episodes ago or a few shows ago about how your skin in naturopathic medicine is often called your third kidney, because what we can't get rid of in our kidneys, or what we can't excrete properly, or when we overstress our kidneys with like medications and things like that, we end up sweating the stuff out. And that's why a lot of people have dermal problems. It's the bad stuff coming out. So if you can't get rid of it, then that's it's a problem. It's even worse. So focusing on kidney function, hydration, and then also omega-3s. Omega-3 fatty acids, mainly found from fish oil, quality fish oil, would be one of the better things to try to help that.
Okay. Well, all right then. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We want to thank you.
Thanks
All
for your
right.
call.
And then, see if I can figure out how to hang that up.
You did perfect. You figured it out because she was told a little different, and she did what she was told, and it didn't work. But then she totally dominated this machine.
We'll figure it
Very
out
impressive.
somehow. So I want to go back to right before the call came in. First off, if you do have questions, please do call or message them in on Facebook. But right before that call came in, we were talking about coffee, caffeine, and all of that with the coffee question. What is the rave with the Stanley mugs right now, and what do you have to say about those? And what about a different product that might be better? Help me.
You remember the Stanley? What the Stanleys used to see the Stanleys.
I'm thinking
with
of
people-
flat Stanleys,
with
and that's
people who
not the same thing. So
No,
not the same
people
thing.
who worked at the co-op or worked at the who are labor guys, who are linemen and stuff like that, and they'd have their Stanley, and it would be this big, ugly metal container, and it had the cup on top.
Okay, like
a
old
thermos.
The thermos,
Yeah.
a thermos. So that's
Okay.
that's where it started. And then all of a sudden, I think I read I didn't actually read it. I skimmed this article that basically said that Stanley hired some female marketing director who was like, by the way, if we can get every teenage girl after these mugs, then boy, it'll help out things. And wow, has it? I think
Yeah,
I saw,
bright pink, right? Isn't that the hot
My
color?
brother sent me there was one on eBay for $14,000.
What?
I almost bid on it, but I figured that'd be the one eBay auction that they'd make
Seriously.
me have to pay for.
Exactly.
So so I didn't. I was going to. I really was. I didn't tell you about that. So it's ridiculous actually, because here's what Stanley water bottles don't do. Anything. They just sit there and look good. They don't filter your water. They don't clean your water. They don't help your water. They don't make your water any better. They don't make your water any colder, because whatever you put in it is what's in it. And they don't make your drinks any hotter. It's one of the most ridiculous things I'm seeing right now. I am excited about one aspect though. It's making a lot of teenage people, and we'll say a little older, maybe up to millennials, conscious about having a water bottle. Now this one actually works. We can talk about. Actually, let's talk about that.
Yeah, talk about that.
And so this is a water bottle that if you see us in a restaurant, you'll look around. We're those weirdos that go to restaurants, and we have a water bottle with us. And when they ask us what do we want to drink, we say we want water with no ice. Now you would think I'd say we want a battleship and 42
Right.
people on the battleship, along with a flag and
Because the looks we get are very strange.
I mean, they look at us like, what? And I'm like, just water with no ice. And the reason is because we put it in this. She's an expert
become a
at filling
master.
this thing. Look, the top is so small. She'll take a glass of water at a nice
huge
restaurant. We were at
cup.
Hubbard's this morning.
Really?
Yeah, we were at Hubbard's, and she just totally unscrews the thing, whoosh, pours it right in without one drop of water hit her phone.
Oh,
that was
wow.
It.
Yeah, that's
There
but
should be
anyway.
a certification for that.
Yeah, there should be. And so these Stanleys don't filter your water, and most water bottles that are like the Britas that
Yeah.
you see, the little Brita has a water, all it filters is viruses and bacteria. Okay. Our problem in this world today is not viruses and bacteria. Now we have some problems with viruses because our government keeps and other entities keep wanting to make them to unleash on us. But when it comes to our water, the problem is chemicals, forever chemicals, plastics, everything
problem.
we eat. They tested what 9 out of 10 meats.
No, everything they tested, 15 samples of proteins from
Chicken.
plant-based meat products to stuff from the ocean to chicken to beef to to frozen chicken nuggets.
Every bit of it had plastic.
Every bit of it had microplastics
the meat.
Wow.
in very high doses.
In the tissue. And so people are eating themselves sick today. That's why we have, these non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and why we have sleep apnea, and why we have all these weird disorders, all these gut problems. Your IBS, Crohn's disease, diverticulitis. All these are either because of or exacerbated by the plastics, the pesticides, the herbicides that we're getting in our water. And people are all day long going around drinking it.
Out of plastic bottles.
Out of
too,
plastic bottles that are plastic to begin with.
that
Now,
are ending up in your food,
Yeah.
in your body.
These,
body.
I think it was Suzanne Summers, God rest her soul, who literally was one of the first Hollywood or popular people that I've ever heard say, "Hey, folks, if your water bottle's been sitting in your car for more than a day, don't drink out of it. If your
so
car
true.
gets warm, I'm talking even warm. If it's 80 degrees in your car for a few hours, don't drink out of that water bottle. Matter of fact, never drink out of them anyway.
Don't drink out of plastic.
Go over here to the Texaco and look at the fact that they have case after case after case of this water in plastic bottles sitting outside, all summer.
Even in the summer.
All summer, all spring, all fall, all winter. These plastic bottles out there in the weather, and then they turn around and people get them. And of course, when you squish them, the cheapest ones are so cheap that the plastic almost falls apart.
Yeah.
It's like
And then
Dindy.
they're excited because they'll be like, "This is recycled." Oh, well, great. On top of that, I've got dirty plastic reused plastic that I'm putting in my body. And the whole thing is that you could just simply get a bottle of water or get some water, pour it into either a lark or a grail. This is kind of cool. This one's actually been to the Amazon jungle, Amazon River 3 times.
At least 3 times.
And
It's
it
got its
has-
battle scars.
yeah, we need to get them to advertise or something after I do this.
Oh,
Look at
that's
this.
cool.
This is the one that actually has a filter. Now, there's a lark that there's a version of this that's no good. That has a some sort of little button that you
UV
press,
light.
a UV light, and they tell you right there it does not eliminate pesticides, it doesn't eliminate
Okay.
the herbicides or the
Or plastic.
PFAs. This one has a filter. All that whole big nub there has
It's got
a
a
filter
replaceable
inside.
filter inside.
And we replace them about once every month or two.
That's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah.
How often does that have to be replaced?
About every once a month.
2 months is what they say.
That's what they say. It's
Just
2 months.
depends
If
on
we go
how
to
much you
Peru,
use it
it's
too.
when we get back home, obviously. But these are great, and yeah, they cost about $80 or $90, which is about the same as those ridiculous Stanley mugs that
Yeah.
people are buying. That don't do a darn thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this, the Lark, if you can see the Lark, I think you can see it. Right there.
LARQ.
LARQ is how they write it. And there's also one called Grail that's really good. It's a little bit harder to deal with, but these are really convenient just to have and carry. And once you start carrying it, it becomes just part of you. Now,
Well-
we leave ours, every once in a while in
Occasionally.
some random state, but
Well, we were at a restaurant the other day. We were drinking out of our bottle, and our kids refuse to use bottles. We buy them and buy them and buy them, and they still don't want to use we use the bottles. We're still working on them.
actually,
But-
one of our no, I won't even say that on,
Yeah,
on there.
but so one of them said something about their water tasting funny, and we had put the same water in our bottle, and it tasted perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
We tasted theirs and couldn't even,
Get it down.
couldn't hardly get it
Wow.
down. I was shocked. It was the first time I had that comparison like that as to. I knew things always taste good out of here, but I had never compared it like that, and it was huge.
Well, my question is, if you can fix something easily and with little cost, why not do it?
Yeah.
We're all drinking something. Okay, if you go to a restaurant and you buy unsweet tea, sweet tea, Coca-Cola, whatever it might be, they've just charged you like $5. Okay, and then they're going to come in and they're going to fill it. So you're going to get about 80, 90, 100 grams of sugar on top of all the caffeine and trash and all the chemicals and the high fructose corn syrup and all that stuff that's in whatever it is you're drinking.
And the ice now.
Yeah, and so you're and the ice, which is contaminated. Or you could just bring your water bottle, and you could sit down and you could order water, which costs, guess how much? Nothing. It costs nothing at a restaurant to get water. And so now they brought out your free water. Well, you just save $5, and you're drinking something that's not killing you or causing you, cancer and autoimmune diseases.
It's $20 for a family of 4 for drinks.
Yeah, just for
In
drinks.
a restaurant.
Well, someone's got 2 different questions here for you. Would you be willing to dip that in the Coosa River and drink it after doing that? Is it that?
I would do it in the Amazon. I don't know about the Coosa. I'd drink straight out of the Amazon. I wouldn't the Coosa. I'd regret it, but I would. But no, I've used pure Amazon water in that. We've from the creeks. So
from our creeks.
we have done that with the Amazon. So yes, I've drank straight from the Amazon in this water bottle in particular. As far as Coosa River, you can have that.
Well, so the other question is there something you would recommend for people in their homes then for water that won't break their bank?
Yes. And I wish we carried these at St. John's, but we don't. And I'm guessing we won't be able to get the account
guess not.
because Target happens to have the account. I don't even like Target personally. Sorry, Target, but I don't like you. But at the same time, you guys carry zero water filters. Okay, zero water. That's the one. Now, you know that when a company says, well, that's with our P77. Hey, you know what? If this doesn't work for whatever it is, you don't have to pay for it. That's confidence, and that's confidence that stems from effectiveness. So when a water company gives you a digital water tester with the water filter that you buy from them, that's pretty confident. And so literally zero water. We started.
We did it. We sat
researched-
down.
yeah.
We put our water in different cups.
Tap water from this house, tap water from this house, tap water from the motorhome, tap water, the plastic
Straight from
bottle.
the hose pipe,
The water from our water company that we were buying water from and having delivered, 81 parts per million of contaminants. Okay, tap water was about 111, up to 120 here in Oxford. I can't imagine anybody drinking the water here. Can you?
Well,
And
that's
there's
where
people drinking
coming
it
from
right now.
California, we were always having to drink bottled water, but
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have this horrible situation where people are getting sick from their water, and they could fix it easily, but they're not doing it. And so using the water bottles, using the filters makes a huge difference, and you can feel it after a few days of how much better you feel drinking something that's clean instead of something that's just tainted. And the problem is this: once you go anywhere and are stuck without one, now you're drinking toxic water. Every bit of water tastes horrible unless it runs through either that. Oh, the zero water. So let me get back to the zero water filter. So the zero water filter, they have them at Target. They have how many gallons is it? 2? How many gallons?
Well, it's a 32 cup. Is the big one that sits on the counter or in the fridge.
And it's like $50.
It's $50.
$55.
Oh, wow.
And before that, you would have to go out and buy like a Berkey that would cost about $600 or $700
Yeah.
to get.
Yeah,
the
that's
same.
the only other one that I was planning for us to get once we got our house done.
Right, yeah, once we finished our house. So it was like interesting because we're looking around and all of a sudden we keep seeing this zero water, and they're like, well, we filter out pesticides and herbicides, and we filter out PFAS,
plastics.
And we're like,
Yeah.
whoa, seriously? And so we looked at it, and then once again, you can test.
We tested
Yeah.
it, and
With
it
your
was
own- yeah.
zero.
Zero.
It was
Okay.
every time. It was zero.
Matter of fact, you can even use zero water as distilled water because it's so
It's
clean
as
and pure.
clean as distilled
Wow.
water.
Now, I will caution this: if you're someone who doesn't have a good diet, you might have to. I mean, if you're used to drinking regular water and you start drinking zero water, guess what? You're not getting. You're not getting some minerals. Now, when they say heavy metals or elements, and we say things like we used a number 81 with that, but that's talking about minerals too. So they're not discriminating against particulates.
It's particles in the water
It's
of anything.
any kind. So when you bring something down to zero, Now it's down to zero. You don't have any minerals in that. So you're not going to be getting any minerals or trace minerals in your water anymore.
Gotcha.
Which I would rather know that I'm not getting, trace minerals and know that I'm not getting chemicals and supplement the trace minerals or make sure I'm getting them in my diet. But for some people that might be something they need to be conscious of, at least maybe supplement some minerals along with it.
Filters fluoride too, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Remember the pineal gland conversation about
Yeah.
the fluoride? Yeah, you don't want to
The
crush
Berkey has to have a special fluoride filter, and this one doesn't.
Yeah, and the Berkey, once again, the Berkeys are like $600,
Yeah.
and now you're like a $150 attachment here and a $100 attachment there. For every new chemical, it's like, no, thank you. It's $55. And the Zero Water, they're not perfect. They're built. Obviously, they're building them as cheap as they can. So there's, I think, 1 out of every 3 might have like a factory defect. And what I'd recommend is if you go to, why am I advertising for Target? If you go to Target and buy it, make sure it's perfect. Make sure that there's no leaks, that it's filtering well, and that it's working perfect, or just take it back and get another one. Because literally,
for sure.
what I'm reading basically on the reviews is that 1 out of every 3 is a dud. And people still will use them, and it's still filtering out. But the problem is that they just don't work perfectly because the fit and finish. Now, if you spend
But-
$800 on a Berkey, it's going to be wonderful as
Right.
far as the fit and finish. But you've just blown $800.
We've bought 3, and they've all 3 been great.
Yeah, all 3 of them.
Well, we've got about
4.
3 minutes left. Someone's asking about well water, and then I have the question of alkaline with all that.
Ooh,
Help.
oh gosh.
Or is there even time to
Well,
answer that?
it's interesting because well water is an interesting topic here in this area because we have something close to us called Fruithurst, Alabama. Fruithurst, Alabama is a wonderful little community. I think there's a stop sign, maybe. Wonderful people. Also an exceptionally high cancer birth defect rate. And they started realizing that it was because there was a Tyson chicken house that had a reservoir behind it, or a Tyson chicken plant that had a reservoir behind it, and their water's running right through it. And a lot of their well water was being used. Of course, out in Fruithurst, it's a very rural area, and so a lot of the wells were extremely tainted with PFAs and with all kind of chemicals.
Oh, wow.
So there was a huge incidence of out in that area, which is toward Muscadine and Fruithurst, of cancer. And of course, they swept it under the rug, and a few people got some checks, and then that was the end of it. But we've got to be very careful about our water, about our well water. Have your wells tested. You can't trust just because you live in the country. You used to, back in the old days, your American farmer and the rural people were the healthy people. Now they're spraying glyphosate and chemicals all over their crops, and they're half brain dead because they've literally been poisoned to death in rural America. So now some of the sickest families we're seeing are the people who live out in the country.
Well, and with that, anything on alkaline water that makes it better or worse?
Okay.
What's your thoughts?
Alkalinity is important to a certain degree. I like to have an alkalinity of like 7.5 to 8.0, or maybe a little bit more, but it gets to be a ridiculous, it's sort of like probiotics. Probiotics are amazing, very, very important, but when you start looking at 50 billion, 100 billion, 200 billion live active organisms, they start using these marketing claims and pitches to make people think that something is different or better than it is. Alkaline water used excessively, I don't really believe in using any one water source too much. And once again, I'd rather use a clean water and supplement my minerals.
Your alkalinity is really more important than your waters overall. So testing yourself, with the pH strips, and then adjust accordingly, is what I would recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Alkaline water is okay, but it's not this. It's not what they claim it is.
Okay. Well, we are running out of time for today, but we want to thank everyone for tuning in and joining us here for Truth, Health, and Wellness with Matt and Deborah St. John. Next week, I believe we have a basketball tournament going here in the area that will preempt this, but we will have an episode for you. So if you are a Facebook viewer or YouTube, please look on that, and we will try to post a time that will air. Because it will run at multiple different times. We just aren't exactly sure of the times yet for next week's episode. So we want to thank you all for joining us and hope you have a great week.